welcome everybody to Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. So, as everybody knows, this show is sponsored by Operation Encore. They are a 501c nonprofit helping veterans get to where they want to be in their musical career. So, if you'd like to learn a little bit more, go to operationencore.org. And don't forget our other sponsor, Gun Room Radio. Here's a little commercial about them.
You are not alone. There are so many.
It's a mortar attack. Smaller fire and RPGs. We don't.
He was sitting in the shadows with a gun in his hand and a lifetime of.
Can remember when all the shows turned off at 12 a.m.
All right, man. Today we have got a show, man. I have been, I'm actually guilty of this. I ended up having to reschedule due to other calendar events, but I am thrilled to death that we have finally got it together. So today we're going to bring on Steve D. Wilson.
Hey, what's going
up,
on, man?
Hey, man. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
We've been talking about this for a minute.
Sorry, I was saying I hit that touch up my appearance on the camera thing, and now I look like I have makeup on. So we're gonna take that there. That's better. There I look like me. Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's just for when you get big, man. You got your own makeup artist and the whole 9 yards, man.
Yeah. This is not my shade. That just wasn't my shade.
Yeah, man. Well, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, man, I'm an old man now, so I think we're close to each other in age, just about. I went to college for a couple of years at the University of Wyoming. My dad was in the Air Force for 27 years, and he had retired, but was working out there in civil service in Wyoming, and that's where I ended up graduating high school and going to my first couple of years of college. And then I was just, spinning my wheels, getting C's because I just didn't go to class, and I had not a whole lot of interest in what I was doing at college. And a buddy of mine, my old roommate, had given my name to a recruiter because he went to talk to him about the Guard, and they called me, and I ended up making an appointment and enlisting just after that appointment. At the appointment, I think I ended up signing up to go take the ASVAB. And within a week, I'd enlisted in the Army. So I spent a little over 4 years. 4 years in the Army, active duty, Fort Benning to Fort Bragg, and spent most of the time at Fort Bragg when we were there. And then got out, ETS'd to go back to college at the University of North Texas. Spent a couple years in the Guard there while I was in school. And the Guard released me to Air Force ROTC. I got commissioned in the Air Force when I graduated from North Texas, and then went and flew B52s at Barksdale Air Force Base for the initial part of my Air Force career. Went and flew close air support missions in support of OEF, OIF over there. So dropped a lot of munitions and cruise missiles and fun shit over there. And then ended up my last assignment was I was in T1s teaching at NAS Pensacola. So I was on an Army base or Navy base. So I ran the gamut of services as much as I could. My brother was in the Coast Guard as well for 20 years. So
yeah, man.
I think we got them all covered one way or another. And then for the last 10 years, I've just been, playing music and stumbling, fumbling, bumbling, trying to figure out the world.
Oh yeah, aren't we all, man? If we, as we get older, it's like you get wiser, but then you ask that one dumb question like, why did I do that 20 years ago? And you still don't have that answer.
Absolutely.
So let's dig in a little bit about what made you decide to go in the Air Force, man.
Well, Air Force, the Army, I called my Army time, my Air Force appreciation tour, and my closest buddies are my old Army buddies, like to this day, and I have some close Air Force buddies, but I think there's just a special like bond you form in misery when you suffer like
Yeah.
together in blood, and so it's a different mindset. Plus, enlisted Army airborne infantry guys, it's a whole different brain mindset than the flying community in the Air Force too. So
Yeah.
it was sort of like being, and I hate to use this like, but it's kind of true. It's like kind of being a member of this elite crazy country club and also being a member of this like really fantastic freaking rugby team. You know what I mean? It's like that
Yep.
dichotomy. Like,
Absolutely,
so
man.
anyway, yeah. But so the Air Force is, I don't know, man. I was like in college, and I knew that like I was in a admin. First, I went to the Guard, and I went to an admin unit, and I was like, oh my god, this is the worst decision I've ever made in my life. Because I just left, the 82nd Airborne Division
Yeah.
infantry unit, and like these were people that just did not give a shit about anything at the time.
Yeah.
It's like
The most
30.
squared away guard guy would be somebody you were chaptering in the Army.
Yeah, exactly. Dudes are like 65 and like E3s. So what? How does that happen? And anyway, so I got out of that unit fairly quickly and found the infantry unit back in Dallas, in the east part of Dallas, and I was in that unit until they released me. But I was in school for one semester, and then I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And my brother flew. He ended up flying Helos and Falcon jets for the Coast Guard. But first, he was in the Air Force. And, always trying to keep up with my brother and compete and trying to get my dad's attention. And he was Air Force. I guess I just kind of gravitated towards that. But meanwhile, I was still playing music and writing music. And my true love was always music. So
Mhm.
while I was in college, I was also playing shows and doing better and better. And, I'd fill the bars on Fridays and Saturday nights and Thursday nights, and started getting offered more money to play these shows. And I was like, well, maybe I don't accept my commission and I just play music. And my dad was having no part of that. He's like,
Yeah.
how are you going to pay your bills? I was like, you get a point. But yeah, so I accepted my commission and then tried to juggle everything for about 12 more years.
Yeah, man. So you said B52s, huh?
Yeah, the buff.
Dude, that had to be a blast.
Yeah, it was a blast to a degree. Like the buff is it's the airplane that your grandfather flew. So,
Yeah.
and the newest models are 1961. Those are the newest bodies, and it smells like your grandfather's airplane, and it was an experience, that's for sure. It's like going to war in your grandfather's airplane is an experience. But yeah, it was one of the coolest, craziest experiences of my life. But
Yeah,
I don't
man.
know about a blast. I don't know if I'd describe it as a blast, to be honest with you.
Well, I
It
know.
was a damn cool experience.
Yeah, yeah. I know from being on the ground side of it, we were happy to see any help, but
Yeah.
the 52s were probably like not as happy as A10s, I think there's
Yeah.
a big difference in accuracy between the
Well,
two.
the problem is we have so much loiter time. We have so much gas because there's so much fuel on our airplane compared to the A10s and stuff that
Yeah.
those guys would go in. They'd only have they don't have that much time, and they can get low
Yeah, absolutely.
compared to us. So
Yeah.
we got used for a lot of like low pass over, like show of force kind of shit. Hey, drop some flares, drop some chaff, scare these dudes. But
Yeah.
that was more what we did towards the end instead of dropping, JDAMs,
Yeah.
GPS
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, I know you said, but how long was you in the Air Force?
11 years. So
11
just,
years.
yeah, almost 12. Yeah.
Okay.
So I did 16 altogether. I didn't get promoted to 04 because I was an idiot and I just didn't do myself any really great favors. So yeah, I got passed over on my second look to major, and they said thanks for playing fiscal
Yeah.
year 2012.
Look, man, I don't know about for the Air Force, but I know in the Army, the officer promotion is brutal. I mean, they tell you as an NCO you have to set yourself apart, but as an officer, you really have to set yourself apart because the enlisted side, the promotion, the better that your boss can write, the more likely you're going to get promoted. But with the
Yeah,
officers, that battalion commander, he's handicapped. The way in the Army, the way they do their OERs is you can only have one number one. And then after that, you've
yeah,
got the first loser, the second loser, and the third loser, you know, and
yeah.
the ratings
Stratification.
have to recommend. So I've seen a lot of guys make it to captain and couldn't make it to major. And I think that happens a lot in the Army for the chaplain side. You know,
Yeah,
so it's tough. It
yeah.
is tough.
I like I said, I didn't do myself any favors either. I tried to juggle family and a music career and an Air Force
Yeah,
officer career at the same time. And just plus, I just never learned. In the Army, in the Army enlisted ranks, and I'm sure in the Marine Corps, you kind of get used to being rewarded on merit. Like how hard you work, how hard you bust your ass.
yeah,
You go. There's the pathways, Soldier of the Month board, whatever, and
yep,
you meet these boards and you kick ass, and that's how you get schools, et cetera, et cetera. But in the
yep,
Army or in the officer ranks in the Air Force, you have to be able to promote yourself
yeah,
and write your own OPRs. And if you don't write your own OPR, give it to your boss just for his signature, and you haven't stratified yourself or learned to do all that shit, then you're screwed.
yeah. No,
So,
you are absolutely right, man.
yeah,
And that's the other side to it that a lot of the civilian counterparts don't understand. Um, and I think that comes along with some of the attitude too that the soldiers have when they enter the civilian force. They're just like, man, let's get this shit done. Let's do it. Let's figure out the problem, fix it, and move on. And some of the civilians become kind of, I don't know, threatened, like you're trying to take people's jobs or stuff like that. But it's just a different mentality because, like you said, you've got to prove yourself to get to the boards, and that's all you're trying to do is just get the problem solved and move on. But at
yeah.
the end of the day, um, I think in that aspect, a lot of the branches are all the same.
Is that Brian making a comment there?
That is, that's right. You can you should show up for his show with like a big Air Force banner behind you. Download a green screen that says Air Force.
Apparently somebody named Jason is affiliated with the B2? Is that what I'm seeing on here? I've
So
crashed the
Jason
B2 sim.
Steiner, Jason Steiner is he is the CEO of Hero Stock, and
Okay, yeah. I think we've shared emails or something or
yep,
messages back.
I'm
Yeah,
sure, man. He targets all the artists for Hero Stock, but he was thinking that Taylor from Guitars for Vets was a that worked with B52s, but she didn't. She was actually like a security guard or something. Not security guard. She
yeah.
was an MP or something in the
Security
SP, I guess is
forces.
what the Air Force. Yeah, for the
And
belt for
now
the
it's
B2.
yeah. So at Knob Noster in Kansas or whatever out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure where she was at. She said when she got there, she didn't even know what the B2 was, and they were like, "Man, we're making history out here," and it didn't become till later that she realized, because when she was in, that was when the B2 was like starting to get known.
Brand spanking
And
new. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, like
she
I said, I crashed their sim once at an air show because I have buddies that flew B2s. So that's kind of a follow-on assignment. One of the options if you're if you're stratified and you do really well in the B52, you can move. That's the next aircraft to advance into, like one of the options, B2, or there you go to test pilot school, or a few other options. So I got to fly the thing. They do like full day sims in that sucker too, like 24-hour flights. No thanks.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
I
The
crashed.
so let's dig in a little bit because this has been a topic that we've talked about, and I kind of want to give people an idea of gunroom radio. We're playing better music because of just exactly what you said before, about how hard it was to juggle military, home, and still try to do a music career, man. So let's talk about an average day. Let's say a Friday night when you're gonna go gig too. How did you juggle all this stuff to even still continue
Yes.
to do music?
One of my buddies I taught with down in Randolph Air Force Base, his name's Dan Meeks, and he left me this really interesting, really great like recommendation on LinkedIn a long time ago that kind of it touches upon this whole topic. And it's funny that you said that because that's what my mind instantly thought of. But he said you'd look at Steve and he'd be on the phone scheduling the MOA, the flight areas for flight time for his students, and then hang up the phone and talk to a venue owner about booking its band on Friday night, and then hang up the phone and get online and do like his lesson plans or whatever for the next class, and then post something to their website or whatever, or answer emails about a gig for a future gig. And then he would call his wife or go to lunch with his wife and have his kids come by the squadron. And that's how my life was, but it was constant chaos.
Yeah,
And I would get home from work and I'd see my kids. And by the time they would get to bed, I would get on the computer and I'd look up options like to try and find new bookings, and I'd try to update all our stuff, and I'd try to promote us. And back then it
yeah,
was MySpace. I was on MySpace, like just trying to carve out some sort of musical niche and get an audience out there to listen. And
I
so
miss my.
anyway, yeah, that was it. That was life. And then go do it all over at 6 o'clock in the morning the next day.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it either. I used to be that guy that said content creators. That sounds like the Millennium Panhandler. That's not a
Yeah,
real job. And man, I'm gonna tell you, since I've started podcasting and everything, no, that's work
yeah,
because it does that self promotion is wow, man. It
it's exhausting.
if you are not making content, or in your case singing, then you need to be promoting yourself. Those are your choices. And to add military, and like you said, you was in OEF or OIF, and supporting that mission, man, that puts your military career or your music career on hold. It's not like you're going to fly
Yeah,
home to go hit that gig on Friday night, And I know with the little bit I know about the music industry, man, if you're not out there trying to get seen and get known, you get forgot about. And you take somebody that's probably a year away, gone for a year, and then comes back, you got to start all over again of trying to get your name out there and get shows and
yeah,
so forth,
yeah.
So that is exactly why, we created Gunroom Radio to kind of even that playing field where it's just veterans. There's no algorithms that says, hey, you're going to get played less for this or whatever. Everybody's on rotation, and it works out, and that's what it's about, is to give everybody playing time. So
Yeah, it's nice because it's like it's kind of like a need is being filled by podcasts it went away with the whole inception of these monopoly giant entertainment
yeah,
companies buying up all the mom and pop radio stations, and it's all the same radios to hype, homogenized shit that you hear over and over again, the
yep,
same 100 songs on all the stations from each genre. So yeah, this need is being fulfilled by podcasters now that are popping up to just play people's music. Otherwise, again, you just get lost in the noise,
Yeah. Yeah.
drown
That's what
out.
happened to me when I didn't know when I started the podcast, it was literally me and my first sergeant drinking a couple beers, trying to figure out how we were going to help veterans because
Yeah,
we got tired of going to the VFW that all they talked about was how much money they made from bingo. And then when we had our meetings, they did nothing for the veterans. They did a lot for Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and a few other things, but there was never any talk about, hey, let's do this for veterans. And so we left that scene and we were drinking a few beers and decided to do a podcast. And that's where the name came from because he owned a little gun business and we spent most of our time drinking and working in his gun room. And so that's where the name came from, two drunk dudes in a gun room. And so we filmed it in the gun room. And when we started, we didn't know how it was going to go, man. But I guess we should have known because as soon as like a lot of these social media seen the guns in the background and shit like that, we were instantly banned. TikTok hated us. I think we were banned longer than we actually had content. So, but they that's where it all came from, and that's where I discovered, holy shit, man, this is hard. Because
yeah,
when you first start, dude, you get a shitload of downloads because all these hosts, your new podcast, they put you out in front of everybody. But man, if you don't start pulling Joe Rogan's stats within the first week or two, and you just get buried in the algorithm, and they don't show you no more. So
yeah,
yeah, it's tough, man. And that's when I was like, I started having guest interviews with artists and stuff, and I was like listening to their stories, and I was like, holy shit, man. If I get buried in the algorithms, who cares? I got a job. I just go do my job. This is for fun for me. But some of these guys, this is what's putting food on the table. You know?
yeah, absolutely, for sure. And well, the music business, I think you kind of walk into it knowing that you're not gonna, unless you're super awesome, like, and have great connections and funding, you're probably never gonna be a millionaire. But
Right.
you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, it's a struggle, and to be a working musician, it's a damn. It is. It's like a life. You've
It is.
chosen a life, and it can look of a variety of different ways, but which is something that we can touch upon later. But it's funny in that regard because, as in, like you said, when you deploy, you're a year away, so you can't promote yourself, all that other stuff. Um, nowadays it's probably not as big an issue, but in like the early 2000s, it certainly was. And um, but a need is filled for the music part of it because while you're away, like you and a bunch of the dudes, like for example us, we would have enough room where we could take our guitars in a certain section of the airplane called the 47 section. So when we deployed, dudes would have guitars stuffed in there, a little amp stuffed in there, MWR to have their
Yeah.
crap to rent or whatever. And we would throw together bands and have bands to this day that I still keep in contact with. The members are like, when are we going to do a reunion, man? So those needs are filled by necessity in that regard as well. Hey, cat. And he'd probably come sit on the keyboard, smart ass. But for as far as like nowadays and trying to promote yourself, if you're gone, like if you are you get kicked off of Facebook for 30
Yeah.
days, people just like, oh, I forgot that you were a musician. I haven't listened to your music. I forgot that you put out an album.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
dude,
You're
come on.
absolutely right, man. It is
Forget
brutal,
about it.
and it's that new society where we have like a 3 second decision. We either like it
Attention
or don't
span.
like it, and that's
Yeah.
why TikTok videos and reels and shorts and all that from all these places are just popular as hell because you know, sitting on the shitter scrolling,
Yeah.
I mean
None
that's
of
the
shit.
American.
None of shit.
Yep, exactly. So You better not have a long intro because otherwise you're going to get scrolled on. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, it's like you have to cultivate a whole brand and all this other shit. It's funny because when I was initially talking to companies, in LA and stuff in the early 2000s about this band that the Black Doves that I had put together at the time when I was first in the Air Force. Um, well, she always talked about the brand, Jennifer, our PA, and she talked
Mhm.
about I see this brand of this band and it has this this logo, and then but the pictures of y'all don't fit your branding and all this other stuff. And so, well, I never, I didn't even pick the name of that band. I didn't create the brand. It was just a freaking band that we was just trying to put out music, and it sounded
Yeah.
better than Steve Wilson. There's already a Steve Wilson, and I wanted to put out a band. So
Yep.
it's just,
Look, I had
nowadays,
a group of guys on here that they created their name from an MRE rapper. So
awesome.
they were called the Blackberry Jam Experience. That was their
I
name.
like it. I
Yeah,
like
dude.
it.
They're a damn good band, and they're all two or three of them. Originally, they were all veterans, and now they've kind of, some of them are civilians now, but
Replaced
there's still
members.
two or three veterans that's on it. They're out of El Paso, and they play a lot of covers in
Oh,
like
bastards.
the '90s metal and shit like that. So, so
My
when
friends
you
over here.
when you got
Sorry.
out of the military completely, is that when you decided I'm going headfirst into music, or did you just still kind of take it easy and try to figure out what you were going to do?
Well, yes, and sort of, and no. I don't know. I think I'd never not gone headfirst into music. So,
Hmm.
like I said, the whole time I was in the Air Force, not so much the Army, but the Air Force, I was just fighting to make it something musical relevance in some way.
Yeah.
So I put out the band, the Black Doves, and we had some success, like I said, with iHeartRadio, and we played on the Warp Tour in San Antonio, and we did some, like got sponsored to play in store in the Gap and a few other cool things that exposed our music to a wider audience on a huge scale. But and then I also still always put out my own solo songwriter acoustic music during that time frame. But I always was trying to push, as far as I could go to get discovered in some way, even
Yeah.
however I could. What are you doing, lunatic dog? And
You seen the
it's not
cat get
good.
some attention.
Yeah. And so when I got out, I was like, well, yeah, this could just be my opportunity to go full throttle into it.
Yeah.
And it kind of started out that way. I was faced with a similar decision as I had when I was graduating college. A buddy of mine had bought me plane ticket, or their organization did bought me a plane ticket to fly out to open an event. But I had just gotten out and I just started a new job in the civilian world, and I couldn't take the week off just to
Hmm.
go because you had part of the thing was you can fly here and open the show, but you have to still stay here and work and like being volunteer. It was like I think it was like the RNC or something, and I couldn't go. I was like, man, I'm sorry, I just can't go. And he was like, dude, I was just about to tell you were opening for Journey tonight. And I was like, I wish you probably hadn't. I wish you never told me that, because now for
Oh
the rest
wow,
of my
man.
life,
Dude,
I think about the
that would
opportunity
be
I had.
awesome.
Yeah, and I felt horrible. I let him down, and it was like, look at the opportunity you passed over. But obviously, at the time, it was God taking care of me because I was in no place mentally, physically, like emotionally to be any part of that.
Yeah.
So that was, like I said, that was God taking care of me at that time. But yeah, that decade essentially after I got out was it was marked by first that job went away. It was like a series of getting, firings. I got fired from that job, and then had another job where I thought I knew it better than everybody there, and got fired from that sucker. And then I got like what I thought was the lowest of the low jobs, as a corporate debt collector, yelling at people on the phone in a boiler room with a bunch of 20-year-old bosses, having people run to the front and ring the bell when they got money from some poor bastard. And I got fired from that I got fired from that damn job for looking for another job on my break on their computer. It's like, Steve, why don't you go ahead and leave the building right now? All right, happily. See ya.
Yeah. From now on, when the debt collectors call me, I'm going to tell them, look, you're not ringing no damn bell today, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. It was awful, dude. So music was my survival at that point, too. And
Yeah.
my only outlet, my creative outlet and all this other stuff. But limited success-wise. Like, I still wrote a lot of stuff, and I wrote a lot of my own singer-songwriter stuff. But you're being a lunatic, dog. But it was a struggle, and nowhere near the success that I had with the Black Doves. And I kind of shied away from it for a little while because I was trying to rebuild my family after a series of self-destructive things I was doing, and the shit that I did to destroy my family at the time. We were trying to patch things together. I was like, okay, I won't fight to become famous in the music business. I'll just be satisfied with playing music at home and writing music and all that other stuff. So I kind of just took a back seat for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then Operation Encore came along. So that opened a whole other world of opportunity after that. But up to that point, man, I was just like, I guess this is it. I would talk about quitting, and people would go, dude, you can't quit music. You will never be able to quit music.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't see it.
Well, I think that's one aspect is similar, to I know for myself and a lot of other veterans, every time, all the way up to the point where you raise your right hand, it is, screw this shit, I'm getting out. I'm not re-enlisting. Yeah. Hell with that. And then it's I, Donald Dunn, do solemnly swear to, and it's like, it's the same thing, you get frustrated, you get a series of licks, and I think that's just one thing the mind needs to heal when it gets that overwhelming, is just to say, fuck it. And it is what it is. And you walk away, and then you can come back with a different perspective and a different amount of energy that you had while you were getting kicked in the face, So I think it'd be the same thing, because the music industry is super tough, man. I mean, it really is. And as Sugar Rose put it, if you are not financing me, feeding me, or fucking me, they don't want nothing to do with you. And she was referring to label companies.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I was watching that show Idol on HBO or whatever they're calling themselves these days, HBO Max or Max, with The Weeknd and Johnny Depp's daughter, and it was I was like, wow, that's showing it. It's the music business showing itself right there, because that's what it's like in the high dollar music business with those idols and teen idols and the Britney Spearses. And so it gives you inside look at how cutthroat and awful it really is. You're just a cash cow for these people.
Yeah.
And, dude, the people want to hear you bark. He doesn't understand who I'm talking to because he doesn't hear anybody talking back because the headphones.
Yeah, he thinks you're trying to play with him.
Yeah. So you've been talking to me this whole time. What's your problem? Oh, do I need to turn on some music for you in a different room, young man?
See, even he's addicted to your music, man.
He's just addicted to attention. I guess he must be a millennial. Just kidding.
Oh man, I haven't been banned on Facebook until now.
I got four of them. We've had four of them, as you see. So I can say that, and
Yeah,
they'll give me shit about it. But
absolutely, man. Me too. I haven't had four. I had two, but yeah, no, I get it. It's a whole nother world.
hush,
So
dog, hush.
what all have you been doing lately? I know you're talking about back in the booth and recording some new music and so forth. Are you touring and everything right now too, or?
I moved. I lived up in Denton, the Denton, Texas area near Dallas, until March of this year, and I over the course of that, COVID and 2020, 2021, I recorded that album, Matt Black.
Mhm.
Cole, or will you shush, dog? Bits and Pieces is the name of the album. Um, so I recorded that album up there, and it was the band were studio buddies, or guys I hired to come into the studio, local, really talented musicians. And then the band that we put together to play live shows, my buddy Lawrence, Danny, and Brent from the Black Doves. We were starting to play shows, and then kind of life happened. Some tragedies occurred, and that kind of whole thing fell apart.
Yeah.
Like as far as being able to play those live shows with those guys, and like I was ready to get out of the Dallas area, and my dad, my mom passed away last year. My dad couldn't really stay in Tennessee any longer by himself.
Mhm.
It didn't make sense to have him out there, so we moved him to Portland, Texas, which is about 10 minutes from where I am now. And I moved here in March to be closer to my dad and the rest of my family that's down here. And I've done a couple open mics since I moved down here, but there's not a whole lot of. I haven't been seeking a whole lot of shows because I've been kind of more focused on writing and getting the rest of this year figured out, and kind of where I'm going to go from here, because I didn't anticipate Matt Black to just be one single album. I would like to have continued to work that project, but
Mhm.
because I have all these songs that I've written over the last few years, like folders full of them, probably 60, 70, 80 songs just waiting to be
Wow.
recorded. And some are gems, and some are probably junk, but I'd like to sit down and at least whittle through and find my top 20, and so that's the plan right now, is to whittle through those songs, figure out what's going to come out, and I may release an EP. In the meantime, I might fly out to see a buddy of mine, Christian Anthony, in Virginia area, and record at his studio, record 5 songs out there, or just kind of do what I've been doing, recording them at home, and then wait until I have funding or financing to get it back out to my buddy out in San Francisco on Napoleon Street out there,
Mhm.
Adam Rossi at AR Audio, and record at his studio. But it just depends budget wise, And right
Oh
now I
yeah.
got 3 in college, so that's a whole other issue too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. That's the industry to get into. You should teach music instead of playing it. Make a
Yeah,
whole bunch of money.
if I knew anything about it, I might teach people.
I'm gonna tell you, man. It all comes down to the dollars. When I started thinking about Gunroom Radio, I was I was naive as hell because I knew I got family members in the music industry and I don't talk to them. So, I got a guy that is similar to like you guys, that he gigs and everything. He moved to Nashville. He's a cousin of mine. I don't even know him. I talked to him maybe twice in my whole life. And then I've got a family member by marriage. The guy married my cousin, used to be the lead guitarist for Eddie Rabbit, and I don't talk to him either. You know, so when I started this radio station, I was like, man, you know, there should be a radio station that just plays veteran music. And then I started looking. I was like, oh, well, I could go to Airtime .pro and sign up $39.95 and start broadcasting. You know, veterans will just give me their music, and hell, it's simple, man. I didn't know shit about copyright or any of that stuff, you know. And that's where Operation Encore helped me out with, was trying to figure out what I didn't know, so I could kind of make an educated decision on whether I wanted to still pursue it. But yeah, man, the red tape and everything that comes along with it is just, it's brutal, you know.
They've cracked down a lot, like the last couple of years, especially too. Like YouTube, for example, I post my own songs,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll release my own songs, and then they'll give me a copyright violation of my own stuff. And I say, look, man, it's mine. And right now,
Yep.
like the version of Against All Odds I have up there, there's a copyright violation for the song, and it's mine. But there's 2,600 views of it that I now won't get credit for until I go in and like straighten them out with it. It's
Yeah.
a pain in the ass. It drives me crazy.
It,
Like
it
the
yeah.
words video is like 3,600 views or whatever, and like it's a copyright violation from YouTube right now, so I can get no credit for it. I
Yep.
don't know. Of course, when you get those, they don't stay in their stupid algorithm and blah 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 blah.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I started doing on Tuesdays. We kind of do a motivational podcast, and there's an artist that joined me. She actually asked me if I would join her to do it, called Sugar Rose, and our intro is her song. She wrote it. She released it. There's no labels, no other names. She don't even have a pro. So I'm like, cool. Yep. And we get the same thing. Copyright violations. So, you know, YouTube is strict. And then all the other, you know, all the Facebooks now recently, originally I wasn't going to do it, but there's just no way around it. So like I do Veteran Hour on Saturdays, and it's all Operation Encore artists. And then afterwards, I do a thing called Sharing Bourbon, where it's a request line. People can call in, say, hey, we want this, yada, 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 and we play that. Well, I have to restart my Facebooks like 6 times throughout the stream because they keep ending my stream because of copyright shit and everything else. So now I'm streaming also over to my webpage. So at least that way, if somebody wants to watch the video later that's not muted, then they can go over there, because halfway through the show, all you see is me bobbing my head and you can't hear the music no more.
Yeah, awesome. Woo! Man.
Yeah.
Your video may be muted in some countries, like, and it's all AI regulated now, right?
It
It's
is.
like so there's not like some human in some room. I don't think so. Oh, these guys are copyright violations. So therefore, just like everything else, you have to go through like computers and nonsensical customer service farms and who knows where, Myanmar or some shit.
Yeah.
Hey, this
Yeah,
is
you're
Bob.
right.
How may I help you?
Yeah.
This is not Bob.
Yeah, you're
Where
definitely
are
not a
you?
Bob.
Yeah, you're not really going to help me, are you? You're just going to read some shit off the screen. Yeah,
Yes.
man. So nobody has
Sometimes I want to
customer
just ask
service.
them, so what is the current temperature in Kuwait? Because I know you know.
Yeah. Like certain
Bob.
days. I meant back in the day when PayPal would like screw you over, you get the extra charge or whatever. You could call somebody. You actually talk to somebody. Like if you call them
Yeah.
up, there's a customer service line, but not anymore. It's crazy. Anyway, we sound like
Yep.
old men.
Well, I mean, that was established when we were talking about MySpace. So
True. Yeah, exactly.
there was like 70%
Thanks
of
for
the
that.
people
Thanks
that
for
watched
that.
this. Yeah, there was like 70% of the people going, what the hell is MySpace?
Is that something?
Yeah, I miss it though, man.
Me too,
MySpace
man.
was awesome, dude. I loved it.
Me too. It had personalized page, like cool
Yeah.
graphics, like, design.
Yeah,
It had
I mean,
cool
you
graphic
could play
design,
music.
stuff.
You know, people come to your page and they'd hear your song that you liked and
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, now you
and,
can't
and
hear it unless you've uploaded your music to those services. Oh, you have to have a separate upload to Facebook to have anybody hear your music on Facebook now.
and Tom was friendly, dude. He was everybody's friend. You know,
Yeah, man. It's
as
the
soon as you
greatest.
joined MySpace, you were
You are the
friends
one
with
friend.
Tom.
That's right. Where's
You know,
Zuck on that Facebook page?
yeah, you don't see no Zuck friendship. That's for damn sure.
That's right. Exactly, man. Color schemes, graphic
Yeah,
design, do whatever you wanted. It
yeah,
was the
man.
coolest.
Yep. Those guys don't know what they were missing, man.
I probably got in trouble on MySpace far too many times for telling girls they were pretty and stuff. So why'd you tell that
Yeah,
girl?
absolutely, man. So,
I just
the
anyway.
new album and everything that you're talking about, are you? Is that what you're going to do? Are you going to go down the Matt Black um,
Under the
saga, or
moniker or whatever.
yeah,
I know, probably not. I mean, eventually I will maybe put out another Matt Black album. We'll see. It won't be the same dudes probably because I just don't see going back to Denton and staying for multiple days to record another album with the same dudes, and I don't think they'll be available anymore. Um, Honestly, over the next however many years with everything going on, they all have their lives too, and
yeah,
that's kind of what I was going to say about the working musician thing. It was like the guy who played drums, for example, on the Matt Black album is a world class, trained composition degree holder, master's degree holder from North Texas, who's jazz trained, amazing drummer, but when he's not touring with King Diamond playing stadiums all over the world. That's his other gig.
yeah,
Otherwise, he's recording for $600 in a studio in Denton, Texas, or playing a corporate gig on Friday night or a restaurant gig on Saturday night in Dallas or downtown. So
yeah,
that's what it looks like to be a working musician these days.
yeah,
Anyway, and he's an amazing drummer, but just getting those guys in the same room again, probably the same magic would never happen either.
yeah. No, I get it, man, and that's exactly that's what I try to explain to people, man. You can buy a ticket to one of these big ass music stars and continue to make them rich, but nobody sees behind the scenes. That singer has got a convoy of semis that bring people in and do his music and set up the stages and all that stuff. Man, when I go and live stream some of this music, I see the artist is dragging his speakers and everything out of the back of his old Ford, you know,
Yeah.
because that's what it is. It's a full-time job, and then you add the trying to navigate social media to get your next gig and get your name known and everything else, dude. I completely get it, dude. It is tough. I don't care what you do for a living on the side, whether it's nothing or you have a full-time job, dude. It is tough to navigate.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, did you see the movie Crazy Heart, where he was, Bad Buck or whatever, Jeff Bridges, he was old country music star, and he was still in his old, shitty Silverado from 25 years, peeing in coffee jugs, like on his way to the next gig. And
Yeah,
he would, he'd have sit-in musicians, but that's another level that you can get to too. But still, it's it's still the shit that nobody sees at the show who comes to watch the artist. You
yeah,
don't see the drive from Albuquerque to El Paso or whatever
yeah,
that night before. They just see the show. But again, like it's another whole, like, that's considered a successful stage to be able to get to that point where you have like nightly sit-in musicians who can have music sheets with your music that you just have to sing to. You show up and play a little guitar and you have a band behind you backing. But most of the time, you're just out there plugging it away by yourself or
yeah.
with the other two people or three people you're playing music with.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Whole
You know,
new world.
and I've been slowly trying to. I ain't gonna say slowly. It's been being received slowly. I've been trying to get some time spots set up to have some comedians come on and have their own little bit, because man, that is another. It's not as hard now as it used to be, but
Yeah.
with TikTok and all the reels and everything else, but it is still a very competitive industry, um, to try to do full time. And that's a whole different mentality of people, man, because they don't receive the notion of radio and stuff like that, like musicians do. This seems like it's almost automatic. Hey, I got to get my music on the radio. And I look at it more like Sirius XM, where you got the comedy channel, or something like that. And I'm like, look, don't you guys want a place to where, instead of you getting a 4 or 5 minute bit at an open mic to test new material, wouldn't you like to have a spot where you could test your whole new material and see what worked and what didn't? But yeah, it's just not being perceived the same way. I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
I don't know how you'd pull that one off. You remember the half-hour comedy hour back on VH1 or MTV back in the day? You used to see a lot of great comedians on that, but it's just
Yeah,
it's a little condensed comedy show with no drink getting in between. Just had it cut up. But
yeah. I think they're just content with reels and TikToks and stuff like that to use
yeah,
it.
that requires way too much attention, right? You have to
Yeah,
spend more than 30 seconds to hear somebody bit.
yeah. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So,
Animals, leave me alone. These two are like both staring at me. Here, I'm going to show you this. There's my cat yelling at me. There's my dog whining
he's
at me.
like, he's finally lost it, man. He's talking to himself.
They're both like meow meow, and he's like, I'm like, leave me alone, dude.
Yeah, man. When I was driving truck, that's what I did when I first got out of the military. And man, it was so lonely. I finally got a dog and put a dog in the truck with me, and I still got her today. And as a puppy, she loved it. But as she got older, and the home time, we'd come home and she had other dogs to play with and a huge yard to run around. Man, when it was time to go back out on the road, I'd be, come on, let's go. And she just looked at me like, I'm not getting in that damn truck.
No interest.
I make her
That
go
cat
though.
was miserable. The dog on the way here, he loves car rides and whatever. He's cool with it. If it were up to him, he would never be on a leash, but he would run his ass away. But the cat, when I had to get him in the truck on the way down here, he was really pissed. Like having to be in a truck for hours. He was
Yeah,
so ready
man.
to get.
So he's not ready for you to be a full time tour guy, huh?
Yeah, no, not at all. Maybe if I had a bus, he'd be completely cool with that. But
Well,
if
you'd
if
have
I
to.
did take that cat anywhere, he would escape like immediately. He would be out. That's all he wants to do is go back to be a street cat.
Well, just tell him, man. Look,
Turd.
we're only going to tour in catnip legal states. All right.
That's right. It's totally cool, dude. He was
So,
found in a dumpster. My son found him in a dumpster, so he's just getting over being a dumpster cat. Will you leave me alone, dog? Leave me alone.
let me. I'll show you real quick. The moral support that I get with mine.
I wish mine would do that. I took him out right before I got on here with you too. But he was just like, "Nope, there's no sound in here, so therefore it must be time for me to go out. Leave me alone."
Yeah, man. So let me ask you a question, man. If somebody, where's the main place that you want people to go to listen to you? Is it Spotify or?
Well, I kind of tried to make it so it was easier for everybody to go like to one stop shopping to get wherever you needed to go for the rest of my music. So with my own stuff, like the solo stuff or any of the Black Dove stuff, it's stevedwilson.com.
Okay.
And then you can get to whatever service you use. There's links to all the services, so Apple Music, everything, Deezer, you name it. There's links to that stuff on there. And then for Matt Black, it's whoismattblack.com, and Matt Black is spelled MatteBlake. So, Who is Matt Black is the website, and then Steve D. Wilson is the other website, and those will have links to all the other platforms.
Okay. I will make sure that I link all of those into the description too. So anybody that watches this on Spotify or whatever, they can click it and find all that same stuff too, man.
Right on.
Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on, brother. If you don't mind staying a few minutes, we'll throw our ending out there, and then I'll chat with you a little bit after we go off the live. All right?
All right, my brother. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, man. It was good talk.
Yeah, man. I've been looking forward to this for a while. I felt bad when I had to reschedule, but so that day, real quick, the day that I had to reschedule, I had a guest on here. His name was Dwayne White. He was a comedian, and when he came on, so I'm in Rolla, Missouri, and the closest that he was going to perform, he was opening for a guy in Des Moines, Iowa, which is about 400 miles, about 380, 360, something like that. So while I was talking to him, I said, dude, I'll come up and see you. And I bought the tickets while we were talking on the show. And I never put it in my calendar. So it allowed people to, and until the week of, I didn't even realize, like, oh shit, man, I've got podcasts this week. So yeah, I felt bad, man,
Well,
but
don't feel bad, because like I said, when you saw me texting you on last Monday, like, dude, did I miss our shit on Sunday? Because I'm terrible about putting stuff in my calendar as well. So you're like, no, dude, it's next week. I was like, oh, thank God, because I thought, and I had missed a phone call, like a scheduled phone call with Megan from Southern Ground as well. So I'm, like I said, lately I've had my head up my butt with that shit. I need to get better about it. Well, the problem is you have 95 devices, right? Like, here's one,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
you have 52 different messaging systems, people in Instagram messaging, Facebook messaging. So you schedule this stuff, and then it doesn't end up in one calendar. You're like, shit, I know I had that scheduled. I know I saved it, but what calendar did I save it on? Which device? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I need an assistant, man.
See, why can't we all just be like Garth Brooks, man, and have an assistant for an assistant? You know, that's what
I
we
know,
need.
and then we can ask people for money for other countries. That's how it works. Once you have all that stuff, you can ask for money for people too.
That's it, man. We don't use our own money. That would be insane. Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, it's good being here, man. I'll hang out and you do what you got to do. But yeah, let's chat some more. Thank you for having me, brother.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. All right.